Right now in the world, there's a message that's telling people to unplug, get away from technology. I think it's dangerous.
And
This is good.
I kind of saw an opportunity because many people were talking about the future, but no one was
Fucking living it.
no one was collecting all these insights in one platform.
Yeah.
So I thought that's what I could do.
Yeah.
So I created an interview podcast a year ago.
Yeah.
So I've interviewed like 30 different experts from different fields, like food tech, ed tech, AI, philosophy.
Wow.
Sex tech, anything.
English or Swedish?
Both.
Okay.
Mainly in Swedish, but I sort of switched to English a few weeks ago because there was another summit, and I could do. I got to do like 7 interviews in 2 days. So then I did shorter versions, like 15, 20 minutes, like we're doing now, and now sort of releasing them in between the Swedish ones.
Who's taking care of you?
Here? Or generally?
In life.
In life? I don't know. I'm very much by myself.
Let's fix that before the end of the interview.
What do you mean?
Well, let's talk. Let's make sure you think about how to stop that.
You don't think I can manage myself?
Not about managing yourself, but about you needing someone else.
Oh, I have a family.
Okay, so you do have someone.
I thought you meant business-wise.
Oh, no.
No, I have...
Businesses come and go.
No, I have a wife and 3 kids.
Good. Then you're fine.
Yeah, I'm fine. That project is...
that project's on the way?
Yeah. No, it's done.
It's done? Oh, it's still not. They're still alive, right?
No more kids.
So it's
they're alive, yes.
Oh, so it's underway then. It's still technically underway.
So welcome to Heja Framtiden, Chris Dancy. We are broadcasting from Epicenter in Stockholm at SIME 2018. Do you describe yourself as the world's most connected human being?
I don't personally describe myself that way, but if you Google just the words most connected, that's how the internet describes me. So
okay. So how did it start? What's the story?
I turned 40 10 years ago, and on that day, I looked around at my life. I had spent time in jail. I had spent time in multiple rehabs for drug and alcohol addiction. I had spent 22 years on antidepressants and benzodiazepines, anti-anxiety medicines. I was over 300 pounds. I was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. I was a mess. And it just dawned on me that I spent a better part of my entire life, from the 1970s until 2008, in front of a screen. And I wanted to know as much about me as my computer. The idea was simple. If I could serve myself the same types of advice that the internet served me as ads, maybe I could change decades worth of bad behavior. And that started this 10-year project that culminated in the book I just released.
And the book is called Don't Unplug, How Technology Saved My Life and Can Save Yours Too.
Correct.
And how would you describe it? What is it about?
Well, the book is actually 3 books in one. It's broken up into 10 areas of life. So the areas that I measured social media, I measured entertainment, like when I listen to music, what music did I listen to, what movies did I watch. It's measured by work, what did I do for work, who paid me, how was I successful. But I took these 10 areas of life and then tried to optimize each one. So it's the stories of my optimization and the sometimes triumphs and more often than not tragedies. And then there's some tips at the end of each chapter on things I think anyone can do regardless of how plugged in they are. Right now in the world, there's a message that's telling people to unplug, get away from technology. I think it's dangerous.
Why?
Well, the reality is we could have had the Don't Unplug talk in 2012 when I first became popular. It's too late. Many people require their devices for health reasons. Many people require their devices for communication with their family. And I'd say a majority of the people, to some extent, are not, regardless of job, depend on their devices for work. Telling someone to stop using their device because it's making them less human is systematically making people suicidal. The reality is you're not a bad person for looking at your phone. You're not a bad person for being distracted. Life is tough, and no one's allowing you to do that. So often I made mistakes in the beginning of my project by making judgments that other people were being narcissistic or using their devices, for things that just weren't important. It wasn't until I got further into my work that I realized, no, people are finding themselves. And I focus on it now. I focus on how we find and use technology to exploit ourselves. I mean, you and your podcast, you've exponentially grown your voice.
Yes.
Technology has become an enabler for you to spread your ideas and the ideas of others. You couldn't have done that without it. If I told you to unplug, you wouldn't have this.
No, that's correct. That would be
You'd be a pretty bad cyborg.
Wouldn't be much to listen to. But do you have approximately 700 sensors?
Yeah, so the
monitoring you?
Number often quoted is from 2013. There were about 700 different systems at that point monitoring me. Everything from wearable devices to sensors in my home to software devices that monitored how I used things. So for example, when you use an app like Rescue Time, it's not only monitoring your device, but it's monitoring how much time you spend in different applications. So 700 at the time was a conservative number I did. But it's probably thousands and thousands nowadays. When you consider one app like Shazam is monitoring not only your movement, but your location, ambient sound, and the music you're listening to. One app can have 5 or 6 different systems monitoring you now. The problem is most people don't know how to think about data, so they don't know how to think about their phone. The closest they get to is permissions. Like, okay, will you share your location? Well, if your phone asked you to each time it wanted to access your life, you'd never use it. What I did was I just kind of went through and understood my life from the point of view of my phone or my laptop or my thermostat at home. All of those things look at me differently. So I see the world through the eyes of a piece of technology. I'm a really good algorithm.
So how have you benefited personally? What was the first thing you noticed?
The first thing was probably the first benefit I had was just probably a profound awareness of how out of control I was. A lot of things that happen in my life are secular, and I think a lot of people's are. We notice this when we look on Facebook and we see that on this day, like last year, these things happen. People are starting to notice and have now for a few years that they're having similar events happen every year around the same time. And we get all excited like it's some form of magic.
And you can share the same image again.
Exactly, right? And what they don't realize is basically what the system is doing is telling you haven't changed. You haven't changed. And we won't share the stuff unless it's really good that has changed. So the first insight was just how much of a routine I was in. The second insight was just how easy it is to change routines. If you want to do something different, you have to change just a few environmental factors. You're stuck in a rut or you're procrastinating, listen to some music that you don't listen to. Right? So there's lots of types of music I will listen to that I don't have any desire to listen to that will make me work. When you put music on that you like or that you enjoy, or you think this is work music, it's not. Your brain is already conditioned a certain set of circumstances around certain types of music. And that's just one example. More examples are we often eat and drink and behave in certain ways depending on not only environmental stimuli, but also kind of this subjective bias that we carry into things. Like if someone says to me, well, when's a good time to meet? And you go through your head and you think, well, Tuesdays aren't good because of this. And well, that day will be this. And we make up this timeline. So for me, just being aware of how much I was kind of creating a future that wasn't real when I was asked to do something. So it's hard for a lot of people to get their head around what I did until they speak to me. And then they're like, oh, I know exactly what you're doing. And it was really about just coming online fully. Just like when I speak to someone on the phone, and when I call customer service, and I just want to scream because I know I can see the screens they're looking at, and I just want to give them the answers, all the answers up front, so they don't have to walk me through their screens. But I'm so tired of being pushed through other people's bad systems, like Swiss cheese. It's like, fucking stop doing this to me. It's hard. Sometimes I feel like Neo from The Matrix.
But when you call customer service and a robot asks you to punch in your social security number, and then you come to the customer service 10 minutes later, and they say, "So can I have your social security number?" I'm like, "I already gave you that." "Oh no, sorry, I can't see that because this is corporate and the other is private." Blah blah blah. That's a trigger for me.
It's a trigger for everyone, and I think.
What's your number and what's your phone number? I'm like, I'm calling from the phone, so you can probably see it.
And that's, again, you need to focus on what that is. That's you being pushed through a bad system. Don't think about it as wasting your time as much as by the way, it is wasting your time. But think about it as if you were a digital piece of meat being shoved through a sausage maker, right? That's what you're feeling. That intensity is your identity being stripped, re-put back together. And someone says, like Pinocchio, put yourself back together every 5 minutes. And I think once I understood the difference between me and the system of me, my time and the system of my time, and how that system meets and interacts with other systems, it became less stressful. Now, there are still days where I can't stand it, but what I have found is by making conversations with people while we're waiting for these systems. Sometimes people don't like it. Sometimes I'll meet people or I'll talk to people on the phone. I'll be like, it must be hard to be you, to have to ask these questions you know are going to infuriate people. And I'm so sorry you have to do that. And I hope your boss knows how difficult this is for you. Why do I say that? Well, A, they need to hear it. And B, they review phone calls for courtesy, for success. I want someone who's reviewing that phone call for success to hear that it sucks. And not hear that it sucks because the person's not doing their job. Hear that it sucks because we're putting people in hell.
But it still sounds time-consuming for you.
It's time-consuming to tell someone that I feel bad that they're in a job that's so shitty.
I mean the monitoring stuff.
Oh, I mean, you haven't seen me monitor a thing. I've sat here and I can tell you more about the last 5 minutes than I know you can. Yeah. The thing about wearing sensors is you become one. Right? If you wear something that measures your heartbeat long enough, you know it. I know your heartbeat just by looking at you. You can become more aware by doing this. The problem is in the beginning, you have to create a routine and a system to collect information low friction. And that just means without any effort. So right now, posture belt gets you how you're sitting and how much you're paying attention, right? Loudness of voice gets you intent and a bunch of other emotional cues, right? Body language gets you a little bit more. Galvanic skin response gets you some. None of that involves me thinking about it. It's just happening, right? And I think that's the hardest part for people to get around their head is you have to remember, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been plugged in and monitoring everything. I know. I mean, there's certain things I don't need to monitor. I mean, yeah, I can prove it. But the danger with me proving how monitored I am right now is people freak out. If you think someone screenshotting your text message is scary, wait till your wife shows someone her physical reactions during sex, right? Then suddenly you're shopping for prostitutes by biological response. Can you get me off this way? Right? That's where we're heading, right? It's that simple. And I think a lot of people miss the opportunity of saying, you know what, I have these needs, and can you meet them? I mean, if Netflix were to show me movies by mood, instead of like, we think you'll like this, well, no, just be honest. Like Spotify does a genius job. Spotify is the smartest piece of tech out there. Spotify knows my feelings. But, these things are just wasting my time.
But health-wise?
Health-wise.
What kind of stuff do you monitor?
Oh, well, all the normal stuff, blood sugar, respiration, blood oxygen, blood pressure, body temperature. I do blood results or blood tests every few months just to see how things are going in that area. So when you think about my monitoring, it falls into 3 categories. There's soft data, and those are really the things that are constructed, behavior online and behavior that's monitored in real space. There's hard data. Those would be biological things like the numbers I was just giving you, blood pressure, things like that. And then there's core data. And core data are the metrics that you measure to see how the other 2 are acting. And those are blood results, genetic results, microbiomes, et cetera. So my stack is really weighted. So the heavier weights are the things that are more internal, the closer you get inside me, electrical brain waves, electroactivity in the heart, those types of things. The softer the stack, what I post on Facebook is there too. But what most people kind of miss, and then you've got cholesterol down at the bottom end of the stack. But what most people miss is the link between how many selfies you take and how your cholesterol is. I can tell you, someone with a BMI of 50 doesn't take a lot of selfies, right? Well, the trip from a normal weight to an obese person is told in selfies, and the trip backwards is told in selfies. Right. So again, I think it's for me, there were powerful metrics in finding the relationships between inane, simple, ordinary things and actually living and dying. I can sit down and shoot the shit with the best biohackers in the world, but at the end of the day, they're people with not a lot of problems. Dude, you're trying to get an extra hours of sleep in a certain state. You don't have too much information. You have too much fucking time. Right? You're not very smart. You're bored to death, right? And I'm just saying this because I've done these things. But the reality was I didn't start living until I stopped caring about what I measured and measured what I cared about. Okay. Right? We get so caught up in worshiping what we can collect that we forgot to love what we love. So now I think about the things I admire. I admire talking to strangers. I value spending time with friends. I actually value helping out people. Like if I see someone on the street, the first thing I did when I came in here and said to you is, who's taking care of you? Right? I really
appreciate it.
I value that. Right? I could look at you as, okay, you're an interviewer and a journalist, but no, I found that really makes me happy. Yeah, is my lawyer a jack-off, and is my accountant probably stealing from me, and is my husband probably hating the fact I'm not? Absolutely. But I am going to live my best damn life with a bunch of people I don't know or care about when I'm not around those people. That's a choice. Because the only thing all of us have to do is die. You don't have to record another show. I don't have to measure another body. But I have to die. And I know for a fact when you die, the only thing you'll think about is, did you spend any time thinking about other people? Because you have to die alone. So I'm going to spend as much time as I can not alone. It's that simple.
This probably sounds like a contradiction from what people think when they hear someone measuring everything and being totally plugged into everything.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I get that all the time. I do conferences all over the world, and these people pay for me to come speak, right? That's just mind-blowing to me. You're paying me to talk about shit I did 10 years ago. Okay, you're bored. But, for me, plugging in was the act of finding out who I was. Right? There are lots of people who've written books, lots of people who speak. There are lots of philosophers and thoughtful people. But these are people who studied other things. Right? I made it my life's mission to study me. And in doing so, I learned, because I used a device, I learned that I'm a lot like other people. I do something when I travel for people around the world called iPhone palmistry. So I ask strangers and reporters and just anyone, let me see your phone. I have them unlock it, and I look at their home screen. And based on their home screen, I tell them what type of life they're living. And they're like, their minds are blown. And the reality is we spend so much time on devices now that we've forgotten that they become us. So, my mother used to say to me all the time, that I was the 5 friends that I hung out with the most. Now before I get to know someone early in our relationship, I'll ask them to send me a screenshot of their battery settings. Because if their top 4 apps in the last 24 hours are Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and TMZ, I don't want to be friends with you. I don't value the apps you value. We probably don't have anything to talk about. But if I meet someone and their top 3 apps are phone, email, and WhatsApp, we probably have a lot to talk about. You like to talk. You like to think. Other people make your day. All right? So I think it's that simple. But I had to do a lot of soul searching and a lot of downloading to figure out that if I need to love machines, I'll love the best damn machines I can find.
So you don't think we should fight the prospect of becoming one of the machines? We should embrace.
Well, it's too late. Yeah. Again, we could have had that conversation 4 years ago, right? But being digitally Amish doesn't work, right? There's not like a little bit of technology, right? Ask Whitney Houston. There's not just one hit of crack, right? Once we're in it, you're in it, right? No, I'm sorry, it's just the reality, right? We could have had that conversation a few years ago, but we're not. It's too late. What do you want me to do? So again, I don't want people to embrace it because I think it's good. I want them to embrace it because you have no choice. No oncologist looks at someone in their last moments of life in chemotherapy and says, fight. They say, let go. Let go. The struggle is our desire not to be here. I'm done fighting that fight.
So what is the most disturbing thing you found about yourself?
I'm a routine. I'll never, ever get rid of rage. I'll never, ever get rid of anxiety. I will never get rid of suicidal ideation. I will never get rid of believing that other people are out to get me or have my worst interest at heart. When I don't take care of my life, and that means sleep well, it means eat well, it means exercise, it means meditate, it means talk to strangers. Left to my own devices, my mind is the ugliest, scariest place in the world. But if I do these things that I know to do, it's not so bad.
Because it's quite kind of fascinating, because a lot of biohackers, they are basically hacking those things. I mean, you think that they are very tech savvy, but they're more into like food, sleep, exercise.
Yeah, the big four ones are nutrition, sleep, activity, which is exercise, and mindfulness. So the thing was for me, is as I looked at those big four, I had to totally and radically start to focus on just what an integrated version of that looked like. For me, the spirituality component of hacking has become the most important part. I mean, I did all the physical, I did all the mechanical, I did all of that. And for me, my talk last year at this event was about time hacking. How do I change my perception of time by using devices? Can I speed it up? Can I slow it down? My talk next week in Malmö, Sweden, will be about technical paganism. How can I use witchcraft and technology to mess with the world, right? So yeah, I mean, I understand where I don't want to say normal, but I understand where the biohacking community is, but, it's stunted. Biohacking is, there's going to be a Bill Gates and there's going to be a Steve Jobs who comes into the biohacking community and then consumerizes it. And then all the little people, I just hope there's a Linus Torvalds out there, the man who created Linux and made it open source, who will open source all this work that they're doing. But right now they're just feeding a fire that's going to consume them.
You think so?
I know so. I mean, Apple spent the last 4 years monitoring our physical health. I mean, Apple Health came out in 2014. This year, they introduced Screen Time, which is monitoring our behavioral health. And with 3 years worth of screen time and 8 years worth of biological data, you won't download an app in 4 years. You'll download a set of habits. You'll get a digital prescription, and it will talk to your house. It will talk to your car. It will talk to you on your body and your earbud. And if you ignore all that, it will call your wife. All right. The last notification is the one you go to bed with every night. All right. You don't have to worry about your phone blowing up if your wife's being told to yell at you. All right. And that's where we're heading.
So my wife, when I come home, my wife says, I just got a message. Your cholesterol level is too high.
Yeah. Or has a crazy sex to make sure you work that hard out and get your cholesterol down.
Oh, does that work?
Well, exercise, being physically active, anything to get your... My point was, we need to stop notifying of things they know. Fat people know they're fat. We need to, let's not glorify fat, but let's not shame it either. People know, but you create conditions around people. There's something to homeostasis and epigenetics. Those systems are older than the computers. They work.
You touch upon relationships in the book, right?
Yeah.
What kind of benefits can you see there?
For me, I think relationships are really, really important. I mean, when Apple announced the Apple Watch, they said it's three things. It's a great watch, it's an activity tracker, and it's an intimate new way to communicate. I think we're missing a real opportunity with technology to enhance relationships. For me, when I travel, I make sure before I leave, I tell all my Alexa devices to remind me of certain things on certain days at certain times. When I'm not home now and my family's there, the machines will come on randomly and tell them things like, I love you, and hey, I know you're probably getting for work, but I just wanted you to know I thought about you, right? So the idea is we're not using technology for the exponential way that it can shift time and move us forward. The idea that it can enhance relationships and remind people of what we care about. So for me, in the book, I talk a lot about using technology to deepen and strengthen relationships.
And how far ahead is the healthcare industry when it comes to this?
Right now, unfortunately, I'm from the healthcare industry. There's this concept in the healthcare industry of population health. And that's basically, which is crazy. They treat people like cattle. But they look at large data sets of people. It's getting there, but again, it's brute force, and we're taking a lot of data without any real context, and we're trying to make sense of it. I mean, I believe I've created a data stack, which is time, place, activity, behavior, biology, and environment. And basically, you can take 3 data elements from any one of that stack, and I can tell you exactly what someone's doing. And it doesn't matter. All moments dekey the same way, and they dekey through that stack. I think right now we're probably dekeying a lot of information about people that's just not true. But it'll sort itself out,
But what are the obstacles? I mean, can I go to my doctor and say, look, here's my data?
I do that now.
Yeah.
I do that. Now, 3 years ago, my doctor didn't. But 2 years ago, he did. And last year, when I saw him for my physical, he did my physical on me. And then the last 10 minutes, he looked at my phone. And he made sure that Do Not Disturb while driving was turned on. He made sure night shift was turned on and reviewed my steps, my sleep, and a bunch of other things. I mean, yeah, and this is not hard. The problem is we're not being open about how much we're willing to let people into our lives. Like, you'll friend someone on Facebook, but you won't give your doctor your phone. You've got it backwards, dude.
So what do you think about these implants that people are...
Yeah, I haven't done one. The thing I love about the decisions I've made is I've been so deliberate. I've been tempted just because of the novelty effect. But to be honest with you, right now I can walk on the street, without any devices, no phone, no watch, nothing electronic, and I just walk down the street. I can walk on the wood, and I can decompose naturally. The minute you chip, it's in you. So I've always been a little bit hesitant to cross the last line. Mm-hmm. I think it's an exciting frontier. I'm very excited for the people who have done it. The reality is, at 50, I really want to start embracing the fact that this is not my world anymore. This is a world for people who are in their 20s or 30s and maybe in their 40s. But it's my time to kind of focus on what I did well, and helping people learn those lessons. I want to be a good ancestor to the people who are coming next. Grandpa Cyborg.
How old do you think you're going to be?
Well, according to my data, right now my life stack tells me 81.
Are you happy with that?
I wish it was a little bit sooner.
Sooner?
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, it's just, this mortal shit sucks. It's just not pleasant.
Living?
No, it's not fun at all. I mean, it's beautiful and it's lovely, but so is a hurricane, and they both will kill you. I'm realistic about all this. I mean, I'd rather, if I could change my age, I'd rather be 70 something right now, because that way I know I'm closer to it, and I can just, the pressure of being an adult is just too much. I spent my whole life wanting to be older, and then I spent my 40s wanting to be younger, and now I just want to be dead. So, I just don't think there's a problem with that, and I think it's refreshing to say it out loud. I've waited so long, and whenever I'm depressed or anxious, it's usually because, there's something keeping me from an inevitable death. Calendars suck for ruining a schedule.
But are you optimistic about the future in general?
Absolutely, I love the future. I mean, what's not to love about the future? What's not to love about all this? I mean, we're past the big hurdle. Right now, we're in a war. There's a war for our minds. There's a war politically. Everyone hates everything. There's fighting in the streets. I mean, it can't get much more divisive. People now, we've got the new skill. We used to fight, flight, or freeze. Now we flight, fight, freeze, or film. So, I mean, we're evolving, very fast. It only gets better from here. The thing is, you can only kill people once. You can only fight with them and block them once online. And the thing is, we just need a little movement. Right now, we're stagnant because the systems we use every day are binary. It's good or it's bad. And once we break through, now that the planet is properly polarized, right, we can break through. but we've still got a little bit ugly. It's a little bit more ugly. I'm excited because it doesn't get much worse and it only gets better. In my lifetime, I've seen really progressive presidents. Jimmy Carter was in the 70s was an environmentalist. Bill Clinton was a philanderer, basically a polygamist or a polyamorous. Barack Obama, was very much for diversity and openness. And I look at through the same lens. Reagan hated the gays. Bush didn't believe that AIDS was real. The second Bush almost, killed the world. And Donald Trump is just going to exterminate everyone, in some people's opinion. The reality is the next president will be a lesbian cyborg who's half black and half Moroccan. I mean, it's only going to get better, right? The next round will look like Vegas on crack, right? That's the way this works. And I embrace the dark times because, man, in our collective history, does it not get us some amazingly fun times?
So what is your best tip for making the future amazing? What do we have to do?
Stop looking forward. Stop looking forward to the future. When you can, think about the future as if you're already there and remember now. My biggest mindfulness tip is I've spent very little time in the present. I'm always in the future remembering now and making sure they're good memories.
Okay.
Yeah, it works. It takes people a second, like, oh, that actually makes sense.
So you're trying to make the most of every day? Is that what
Yeah, make the most of every day by pretending you're remembering it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can make the most of every day, but that's kind of backward looking. But if you really want to make the best of your day, you have to start out by remembering what it's going to look like to you. Right? And then it becomes that because it's a memory.
Okay.
That's part of my time hacking talk, sorry. I teach people to do that with their phones.
Teach them to do what?
To live in the present by remembering it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know it's a little bit backwards. But the idea is you use your mind to construct stories about the future all the time. So all I'm saying is pretend you're in the future and remember this moment and live it the way you remember it. And it's suddenly pretty amazing.
Because you can orchestrate it?
Well, yeah, you're in control. If you actively try to be in control, you're actually taking a passive role in the moment. I learned this from collecting data. The data that I collected I thought was in the moment was actually data that was coming from the future. So the feelings you're writing down are feelings you're about to have.
Okay, but the amount of sensors that you have, they must decrease with technology converging, right?
Yeah, I mean, my watch now does as much as 4 sensors on one of my boxes I've got here with me in Sweden. So, that box has blood oxygen, EKG, and heart rate. And my watch does all 3. Right? So, yeah, it's exponential, and once earbuds, earbuds do body temperature. So I think, that's all coming. 1 earbud and 1 watch, and you'll be good to go in about 5 years for all your medical needs.
And what is your best tip for someone who wants to get started with this monitoring business?
I like there's an app I like a lot. It's made here in Sweden by a company called Northcube. It's called Life Cycle. It does low-friction data tracking for your place and time. So it makes your day look like a donut and then shows you how much time you spent doing what where. Why I like it is actually a step further. So you can add new categories. So what I do is I actually label my categories like talk to a stranger, friends and family. And now I track the things I value so that if any of them change, I get alerts. Yeah. So if it says, hey, it's been 2 weeks and we notice you're spending less time with friends and family, it's actually pretty easy to do that without even thinking about it. But it's much different than being told you haven't walked enough if it said you haven't loved your wife enough. So again, I track what I care about, not care about what I track. Yeah. And that Life Cycle app from Northcube does that for me.
Cool. Do you have any reading tips beside your...
I would not read my book. It'll bore you. But no, my book is pretty good. I finished, can I look on my devices? I finished a couple really, I think, amazingly good books. I mean, there's a lot of everybody should know all the kind of standards for the cyborg. One of my favorite books, Everything's a Short History of Nearly Everything. If you haven't read that, it's a little bit older book. I really enjoyed Real Magic by Dean Radin. It's about the occult in the world. America: The Farewell Tour is an amazing book about the decline of America. And obviously, I would be remiss, The Coddling of America is amazing. It's about how we treat people so special that they're now falling apart. And I'm fascinated by the intellectual dark web. I think it is an emergent super species of thought that is coming to take our minds.
Wow.
Because it really is kind of this balance of dark and light together. Even the Star Wars movie last year was like, it's not about the dark, it's not about the light, it's about the balance. And like everyone totally missed that. Like literally Star Wars just said there is no light. And they said the dark side doesn't matter either. I couldn't believe it. They literally blew up the Jedi books.
So it's not as polarized as it used
No,
to be.
it's coming. It's coming. The balance is coming. Like Ariana Grande says, the light is coming to take away everything the darkness came. You know, I don't know. I can't sing Ariana.
Balance is coming. Thank you so much, Chris Dancy, for
You're welcome.
joining us.
Thank you.
And you're about to go up on stage
Yes, sir.
very soon.
Is that waiting for me?
I think so. Thank you for listening to
Yeah, I'm
Heframtiden.
sorry I swore. I don't
Check
know
us
how,
out on
how sensitive your
heframtiden.se.
audience is.